So these are our deadlights that we've cast so far. This is the one we did yesterday. It's an image of Winston Churchill and one of his quotes, "Never, never give up." And it just came out really nice. We're really happy with it. So we're on, I think, number 6 now. So we're actually going to walk you through the steps today. Now, a flask has 2 parts, a top and a bottom, and this is the bottom of the flask. And it's right set up right now because you can tell because this is slotted so that the top one will wedge into that. And I'm putting a piece of plywood onto it. You don't have to do this for a small flask, but it's great for big ones because I can turn it over and not worry about this piece of wood moving anywhere. In this flask, the bottom, called the drag, starts off life upside down. So, like so. And then we'll put the part into here and it will get slipped. And this is our pattern for today. It says a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. It's from Lao Tzu, and Betsy made some beautiful little footsteps for it. And we put, oh, screwed it up there, got to fix that. We're using oil-based clay for our artwork, and it's turning out to work really nicely. Because like when we make mistakes like this, they're easily corrected. Maybe it was a little warmer, but that's kind of the trick too, is you need the clay cold so the sand doesn't stick to it very much, but you can heat it up and warm it up by working it, or put it in the microwave or a hot air gun or anything like that, and you warm it up and it makes it very easy to work. Here we go, fix it up a little better. And then these are just little feet for it so that it doesn't press down on the artwork and screw it up when I put it back into the mold here in a little bit. So I'm going to turn it around because when we flip it, I want this side over there because that's where the metal gets poured. I want that to end up here. The pattern will go in somewhere about right there. All of our various tools and such. And part of this is the bottom of a riser and a runner that I need. Okay, so all that's set in, we're ready to dust it now. Cornstarch, talc, baby powder, all that stuff works. I'm using glass microspheres because they don't react to the water. We got a lot of humidity right now. They don't clump up, and they're nice and loose and stay that way. A little too much, really. But you don't actually have to dust your pattern if you have a pattern that's made, that's made of wood and sanded down and waxed real well. There's no need to dust it, so the sand won't stick to it. But this is clay, and clay is a little sticky, so we are using the parting dust on the clay as well. In fact, we're just going to get the whole pattern done. Morning, Jack.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Now we're keeping our sand inside as well as the sodium silicate because it doesn't like being cold, and we don't like working it while it's cold. Silica sand, it's real fine white sand. They call it fine silica sand. Silicate is 2% mix, so we put about 5-6 ounces in for, a bottom third, a bucket of sand. And you can really don't have to get that accurate. You can be anywhere between 2 and 4%. Get our sodium silicate by 5 gallons, and you can buy it on the internet a gallon at a time, or you can even buy 5 gallons of it. But it's not a hard thing to come by. I'll show you. So you can go down to your auto parts store and you can buy this stuff. This is, what does it say? Liquid glass metallic. And liquid glass is a clue because water glass is the other name for sodium silicate. And if you look on the back here, it'll actually list, sodium silicate on there. And it has this copper powder in it, which won't matter anything. It's made for sealing up, engine blocks and cracks and anything in your car, because when it hits the CO2 of the engine, it gets hard. So. And this isn't a cheap way of buying it, but I've actually used this stuff and it worked just fine. For most of your casting that you're going to start off with, you're going to use a much smaller flask, and you're not going to have to screw the boards onto the bottom of it or anything. You just need a couple of pieces that go together. I have various flasks that I've used over the years and keep them up in the attic. And I see this board is the bottom board, and it's no big deal just to rotate the thing one person. It's when you start getting the bigger stuff that it gets a little more complicated. So what they do is they mix it up, and then it's real important to flip the sand over. So he pours it into another bucket, and that gets the dry stuff that he didn't get at the bottom, and he can mix that up next. Now there's nothing harmful about these ingredients, so you don't have to use gloves, but you can if you want to. The real important thing here is that the dust that I've used on the pattern, that glass bead, will move really easily. So what I want to do is I want to go out to the lowest part and just start sprinkling this on here. If you've watched green sand guys, they'll get a sifter and they'll sift their sand onto it. We want really nice sand against it, and I don't want it to move the parting dust, so I let the sand fall on top of the dust. I don't want it to slide across the surface and push that dust around. And once all that's covered up, I'm just going to cover up my bottom of my riser and that runner, make sure they don't move around. And now, if you watch the green sand casters, and that's the real popular thing, hardly anybody uses entirely sodium silicate sand for doing the entire part. It's mainly used for making cores. I'm not going to explain cores. I'll give you a video link in the description of the video that's awesome, and you can go look at that. It's like 1940 something, and it's the Scots, working in a foundry. But green sand has to be really rammed in hard, and sodium silicate sand does not. You just press it in, and I've already done this more than enough, and that's it. That will get the mold. Now, I'm a little paranoid, so I'm going to press it in a little bit harder. That's all she needs. You kind of use your fingerprints like a sheep's foot on working on a roadway, and that'll be sure and get it in tight enough. If you want to pack more, go ahead, but it doesn't do you any good. Now, not everything can be sand cast. A part like this has what we call a parting line. Right in here, I can pull the sand off this direction, and from the other side, I can pull the sand off this direction. These are a little tough, but not too bad. It's got a parting line. You get parts like this. It's an hourglass shape, and it has indentions here. So if it didn't have the indentions, I could pull it out like this, and I could call this a parting line. But with these indentions here, there's no way to do that. I can't do this because I can't pull it out of the sand either direction with those flanges. A part like that has to be wax, lost cast, foam cast, some other process. And we're going to do one of these in a larger scale. We've been working on them for a long time, and we think we got the process down now that we can do them here. And we're going to use lost wax method with a massive block mold. So different type process altogether. And a lot of people love green sand casting, and I've got nothing wrong with green sand casting, but it doesn't fit me being on a boat. This stuff, I can pick up this stuff at a harbor, I can make a casting, I can cast the sodium silicate back into the ocean where it came from, and all is good. Green sand, you really keep the stuff, and you have to have a muller to recondition it, and it's more work. So if you're going to do something, just constantly go into this hobby of casting, green sand's the way to go. And Mr. Pete 222, I think, or Tubal Kane, great guy for learning casting from. Also, My Ford Boy, another great channel for learning casting from. Both those guys use aluminum. There's guys out there doing cast iron, bronze. I've done some nitrile stuff. So there's all kinds of good things for green sand casting. I've never used green sand. I've used Petrobond. Petrobond's a nice intermediate step. It's expensive, so for small things, it's great. It's an oil-based sand. That's a good way to go. I think I'm the only guy on YouTube that's using sodium silicate for the entire mold, and it's not my idea. I got it from the foundries here. That's what they do. They often use an epoxy-based mixture in their sand because they're doing big parts, and that green sand doesn't suspend itself over these big parts. Look at that video. Foundry practices in the description. It's an old video, but you'll see that they have big frames, for handling this green sand. There's some guys out there that use green sand. They put frames across, and we'll even use a wire frame for casting these later on today. You'll see it. So the next thing we do is we put the bottom onto it. And again, if you're using small flask, you wouldn't have to screw this down, but we don't want to dump this thing on the ground, so we're going to screw it on. Up, back, gently, roll it over. take that off. So the original bottom comes off, and then it's a matter of cutting the sand down to the parting line, because we've got all this sand that pushed underneath, but the real parting line is way out here. So there's the runner that our metal is going to flow through, and there's the bottom of the riser, and then it's going to enter into the part right here and flow out, and we'll put vents on the other side. So now what we've got to do is we've got to cut all this sand gently away from here that we don't need until we get down to the parting line or the edge of the part, so we can actually pull the pattern back out of here. There you go. Yeah, that's good. That looks really good. So I need to go in a little bit deeper on that. Now, if we were at the foundry, you wouldn't see them doing this. What you would see them using is this thing called a match plate. So it's a specially made deal. It's a board that goes in. It's got half the pattern on one side and half the pattern on the other side. They put it between two pieces of sand, put them together, take the sand out, take the match plate out, put the sand back together. They're done. For us, it's a long, tedious task. And with sodium and silicate sand, you want to do this out of the wind and out of the sun. Unfortunately, it's not blowing hard today. And that gives you more time to work with it before it starts hardening up, because it reacts with carbon dioxide, which of course is in our atmosphere. Otherwise, all the plants would be dead. And so it will start getting crusty after a little while. It's nice and cold and no wind this morning, and so that's not going to happen really quick. So it's great. So we have time to gently work it down to its parting line. Let's vacuum the rest of that stuff off there. Now, it's been 30 minutes and our sand has definitely formed a nice crust on it. And I'll push this away and you can see that. So that's just the exposure to the CO2 in the atmosphere. So that's what happens. You get about 30 minutes of working time with it. And we got this really nice, I think. Now what we're going to do is, we see when this hot metal flows along here, if I built the flask bigger, I'd have 2 inches of sand. I got less than a 1 inch of sand right here in the corner. So what it does, it gets too hot, and it's always flowing through here, so it's really hot, and eventually it leaks out, because the heat means the aluminum is thinner. So you can see where it's burned up the flask doing that. So what we're doing is we're going to take a piece of sheet metal, or just flashing, and put in here, and that'll keep that sealed up much better. Yeah, it's going to do all right. Now, Hugh Hood came up with this other idea. We drilled holes through it, and that allows this probe to go way underneath, and we can inject CO2 gas. It's just welding gas for us. You can make CO2 gas by various methods, but it's easy to buy in a tank. If you don't have it in a tank, let me think of a method you can make CO2 with. Well, you can...
Shell and hydrochloric acid.
You can breathe all over it. What'd you say?
Shell and hydrochloric acid. Ain't that what we...
Acids and lots of things will make CO2.
Seashells.
Seashells?
Yeah.
Calcium? Okay. Look it up on the internet. I bet it's there. Oh, dry ice. That's the easy one. Just let dry ice sublimate inside of a container, and you've got CO2 gas.
Sure enough, yeah.
Of course, the air, eventually will get through it, just the atmospheric air, but this speeds the process up by a day. And the nice thing is we're injecting gas underneath this pattern, so it'll flow out through there. And the way you know you're doing it right is, first off, when you pull the probe back out, you should feel more tension, because now the sand is hard around the probe rather than being that soft stuff. And you ought to pull it out every once in a while and make sure you're still flowing gas and haven't clogged it up. So we got a little tool here that we can open it back up with. And the other way you know you've done it right is because when you go in down the side later on, you'll feel that it's hard. If you find any soft spot, just redo that area. So this is a kind of a boring process here, but works really good for us. It's like everything. There's not one way of doing it. There's not a way of doing it. I always flinch when I hear somebody say, well, the way of doing it. That's not the way. There's always a way. Everything should be able to be modified. I mean, how else are you going to invent something new if you don't have an open mind to doing something a little bit different?
Crack the whole surface.
Right, that's exactly what he's doing now. He's going around and he's poking holes through the top where it can go through. So where it doesn't go through, it means it's already gassed good enough, and so it's just kind of like a secondary check. If it goes down half an inch, it's already hardened up good enough. So the next thing we do is we pull our pattern out. Now this is something you normally wouldn't do. You normally would not pull your pattern out at this stage. You'd go ahead and make the cope up, which is the top part, and it's sand. But we're kind of paranoid, and we can do it easily enough. So the reason we pull the pattern out of this thing is because we can see if the lettering and everything came out on the inside nicely. If it didn't, we might just throw the whole thing away. And if we made up the cope, then we'd have two parts to throw away. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to do something that's a little unusual, and we're going to pull the pattern out. Those of you that know me ought to be impressed that I actually own a brass hammer. Not all my hammers are framing hammers. And we're going to take the bottom of the riser out, just because the handle of the pattern will hit it a little bit if we don't. Okay. Now let's get our boards to go across here. You can put yours. No, you can't really, can you? Okay. Your end generally comes up a little easier. Let me try and rock mine a little bit. Now don't get in a rush when you're trying to persuade your pattern to come out. Look for where it might be hanging up. We know we got it loose on that side over here, but I think this handle here is stuck. So we're gonna dig it out a little bit. Any sand you dig out, it's not a huge deal if you're gonna use a grinder on it anyway, which we are, especially along the parting line. You're just gonna get a little more extra metal there, so it's just something you can grind off. So it's nothing to get too worried about. That's definitely where we were stuck right here. Okay, I'm wrong. Go up a little bit with yours. Yeah. There it comes. Push down. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I got it. That's the roughest spot we got right there. It always looks weird because the letters are all backwards when you look at it like this. So now we know we got a bottom that's good, so we're going to vacuum out the sand, fix up the pattern, and put it right back in. We also know that we're not going to break it getting the pattern out next time. That looks good. Oh yeah, no problem. All right, go ahead and take that screw back out. We'll have no trouble with that. Now, another reason why we can get by with pulling our pattern out, putting it back in, is we can take the artwork off of it. So when it goes back in, we don't have to worry about it matching this stuff up. But I am going to be rather gentle taking my artwork off, just in case we do screw up the pattern later on. Okay, so we got our letters off, and we rinsed the sand off, vacuum out the bottom. It's a matter of getting it back in without causing irreparable damage. That is good. Riser goes there. So this is the cope, the top part of the flask. Bottom part's the drag, top part's the cope. I don't want huge amounts of it on the part like that. Now that worked pretty good. But I can get a lot of it over the sand. That just doesn't matter. I don't want the sand sticking to the sand. So guys, these will be the vents here, here, and here, right? When the sand goes in. Now, we had sand left over from doing the first side, the drag, and what we do to keep it is we just set another bucket inside of it that has dry sand in it, and that makes a lid for it, and that keeps a lot of the air away from it. But we don't use it for the first layer because it might have something a little crunchy in it, and the first layer we want is a fresh layer against the pattern. Now you need to find where your patterns, where your vents go in now and set them in place. There's one. There's
right at the ends, right?
Yeah, you set them right there. So one vent there, one there. Yeah, at the highest spot. And then one right there. Beautiful. And then the pour spout. Good job. Now I need that screen. Now the first one we did fell apart on us, so we've got this piece of steel shelving made up so that we can set it in here, screw it in place. Yeah, let's move that over. Right there. Around all of our vents and risers and everything, and it's going to hold this sand together. So that's where it's going to go. Now let's add a little more sand first. I don't think we have enough, Jack. Yeah, we're gonna need one more. Sorry.
It's all right.
About half. Yeah, it's more than we need. But now the trick to putting the gas in is just drive it all the way down. Try not to touch the part, but he'll work his way out from the center there, and he can feel when he drives it down the next time as to whether he's hitting stiff sand or not. If he's not, then he'll linger there a little more and put a little more gas in and make the next hole a little closer. If you cast, you got a great way of getting rid of your old motor oil. Yeah, just all of it will be fine. I want to thin down that oil. Yep. That cold oil and not go through the burner real well, but we'll thin it with that paraffin, it'll be fine. Now the next trick is to take the cope off and get our pattern out and then put it back together. And to do that, I like to go to the corners and just barely lift up on it, and that's separating the pattern. Leave a screwdriver wedged in there. Do that on all four corners and then we'll pick it up. Beautiful. There you got it? Yeah. Oh, here she comes. About that very well. And then get the sand and put it back in here. That'll be there. Beautiful. Horsepower, 3 vents, fast, we're good. Okay, now when we flatten it out, we got to do it out here so any loose sand falls out here, and it's not on the mold. Ready? Can we lift?
Yeah.
Lift.
Yep,
Okay.
we're good.
Good. Very gently on the tabs. Go real slow here. Okay. Go down. You want to leave your tab into place, Jack?
I think so.
Put down at it.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep, I'm good.
I don't feel any resistance.
No, stop.
Toward Jack or toward me?
Toward Jack, if you can, but that piece of wood's gonna stop.
You down, Jack?
Just gently.
That sounded all right.
We're down.
Okay. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail on the burner and all this rig because I got other videos on that. We burn propane to start off with, then we go to a kerosene, diesel, motor oil mix, and Super Dave built me the burner. It's a fantastic burner. He'll even do cast iron if you want to. So more on, we'll give you a little bit more on that, but not much. This is a clay graphite number 35 crucible, and they're available through various foundry supply houses. But it doesn't matter which one you buy from. They're all going to come from China, and they're all varying degrees of good. Now, in the bottom of this, I have a plinth down there, which is just a piece of refractory block, and you can see the end of the burner pipe coming in there, so it kind of passes by and swirls around. Normally, we would put a piece of cardboard between these two, and the cardboard burns, and it stops the two from sticking to each other. But aluminum is only 1300 degrees, so it's not necessary. That's when you're doing something like, you know, nibble or cast iron. And I'll go quickly over this. It basically uses a propane line which just goes into it and burns. You'll see that happen first. And then it has an air line for compressed air. That causes a Venturi effect and sucks in the diesel fluid through a special nozzle inside. And then the vacuum cleaner motor, just a 3-stage vacuum cleaner motor, to blow in air, and that's just gobs and gobs of air. So what we have then is a speed controller normally used for routers, and we can slow down the vacuum cleaner motor and speed it up to the appropriate, whatever we need for air. There's a regulator on the air line, so we can, because I run 120 psi up to here, and I don't need 120 psi going to there. And there's a fuel filter on the oil intake line. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so what he's going to do, he's going to light that hand torch, and he's going to put it down inside the furnace, and then he'll turn the propane on once he's got a flame inside there. You never want to let the propane gas build up, otherwise you'll get a nice little boom. And there it's lit, and once it's lit, he just turns the air on, and that'll cause the flame to go back down to the burner inside the bottom. There he goes. Now we'll let it warm up on propane because the diesel doesn't burn well when it's not hot. Now we're stacking our cold aluminum around the top, and what that does, it warms it up and gets it dried out. You don't want to introduce any wet aluminum into a crucible that has molten aluminum in it, otherwise you'll get a little splatter and blowback. Okay, it's nice and warm inside, so we can flip over to running diesel instead of propane. Wait for that aluminum in the bottom to be molten before we start adding any more. And when it works really good, that's what your parting line looks like. So it's one of the things you'll have to remove with a grinder.
Now once it gets going, it goes. Yeah, we gotta keep it open, this is what we do.
Crucible's full, so we're going to switch back to propane to cool it down some. The next thing to do is to skim the dross off. It's all the crap that flows to the top, and it's just a piece of steel on a stick. Sweep it around like a spoon and throw the dross out. Until you got a nice mirrory type surface or close to it. We'll do it again later on. The next gadget we use is a thermocouple. It has 2 wires, dissimilar metals in the tip of it, and when dissimilar metals come together, they put off a little bit of voltage, millivolts, like 2.1 right now, 2.2. When I get to 29.3, I'm at about 1300 degrees, which is where we want to pour the aluminum at. All right, we're at 29 point, damn, we're too hot. We're supposed to be at 29.3. So we're gonna turn the heat off and let it start cooling down a bit. So what we do once we turn the heat off is pull the burner out and then let it start cooling down that tip there. We'll let the air flow through it for a little while. We're gonna open up the furnace and let it be exposed, and it'll cool down a little faster now. 20, we're still at 30, so we're gonna have some time. Now, you'll see a lot of videos where people are using degassers and flux and those type of things in the aluminum. And frankly, I've used them and I've not used them, and I much prefer not using them. I don't think they do enough. I've never noticed a difference. So I think they're really just a kind of a sales pitch. And it's people wanting to act like the real furnace foundries. You know, in a real foundry, they'll toss in this premix of salts and stuff to work the gas out of it. But they're pouring a much higher level quality of aluminum than anybody at home is going to do. And frankly, for a dead light on a portal, it's like, really? Yeah, you didn't need it. one still. Turns the heat off a little too late. Anybody got any marshmallows? Make some s'mores.
I didn't eat up all the peanuts I had.
Yeah. Now another thing, people freak out because we're not wearing face shields, we're not in fire suits and all that stuff. Aluminum is 1,300 degrees, which sounds like a lot, and y'all wouldn't put my skin in it, but it's not cast iron or nitrile or bronze or any of those much higher temperature things. Those are 2,600 to 3,000 degrees, so we're talking about substantially cooler metal here now. But take as much safety precaution as you feel necessary. I mean, I've done this a lot. These guys now have experience in it, so everybody knows, not to do anything really stupid. Now, I don't recommend, you try this, but see, it just beads up off my boots and goes to the ground. I mean, I wouldn't do that with cast iron. There ain't no way. But I do recommend you have good footwear. No sandals should be out here. Now, if we were in a rush, we could take a piece of aluminum and put it in there and melt it down. That would cool it off. But we're not in much of a rush today. All right, I can't stand it.
What? Oh.
Patience, grasshopper.
I don't have patience. I was born without them. When the aluminum's too hot, it'll actually burn the sand, and if you use something like cornstarch or baby powder, that'll burn too inside the mold. So it's a good idea not to pour it. This is actually the first time I've ever used my meter on aluminum. I've really got the meter so that I can get nibble correct. If you don't have one of these, don't sweat it. You can pour it too hot. It's not going to be horrible. 9.6. Kind of get on 5. Okay. We're ready to go. We'll just go slow from here on. So that metal's at about 1,300 degrees now, and we're gonna get one more skim of dross off of it, and then we'll walk you through the tools here. Now the first tool they have is called lifting tongs, and they open up just like kind of salad forks. They got to use 2 hands on them, and the trick is to get them down around the crucible, which there's not a lot of space, as gently as they can without pitching it, breaking it. It is a soft material now, and when it's hotter, it's even softer. And they're doing a beautiful job there. And that's about it. Go ahead and lift up. Now what they do is they'll close together and pinch that crucible, and they can lift it right out of the pot.
There we go.
Nice and slow. Now they're going to go over and set it down on top of a plinth. That plinth is just a piece of castable refractory. It's made to take the heat.
I got it.
And they gently take the lifting tongs off. Now that is a pouring shank is the next tool, and they'll lift up and grab that pot with a pouring shank, and then Jack will lock that crucible in so it can't fall out. Just like that. Now you've waited around enough, I guess. It's probably a little too warm still, but not much. So now there comes the pour. And David, the guy with 2 handles over here, he gets to actually do the pitching of it. And the idea is to run it enough, a little faster, much faster, 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 faster. There, that's what we want. We want it going down so that there's no air being sucked into the pour as well. And he's watching that puddle. If he overflows a little bit, it's fine. And we might see it come up the vents over on the side. What I'm not seeing is it's not shooting out the side like it did last time, so that's good. I think you're full. You're out on the top. That is beautiful. I don't recommend muffin tins for nitrile. It works fine for aluminum. And what they do is they're just going to pour the excess aluminum into that, make some aluminum muffins. Wow, your aim sucks today. There we go.
Ooh, not that one.
You don't work in the kitchen much, do you?
Oh no.
I know the Muffin
Why don't we
Man.
just pour it all over the ground next time, huh?
I know the Muffin Man.
You know the Muffin
Only
Man?
slightly.
All right.
We're acquainted.
He's gonna be pissed at you. Huh? Now we need another muffin tin. Just pour it out here on top of the pattern. We'll be okay. We'll break it up. There you go.
All right.
Now they're gonna put the crucible back into the furnace there, and all I'm gonna do is tear this aluminum apart while it's still wet. See how it crystallizes? Comes right apart at this stage. I just need to leave it in big chunks. They're easy to handle, but will fit back down into the crucible next time.
Might have grabbed that too far now. Let's see.
And that is what a very good pour looks like.
There we go.
Wow, that's a way of doing it.
Yes.
That's good. Now we close the furnace back up, and that lets everything cool down real slow. And I put that plinth on top to plug up the vent hole on it. And that'll seal it up. It'll still be warm in the morning. Yeah, it's about a 10-minute wait. Yeah, it depends on how big your mold is and how much aluminum you have inside, but 10 minutes is going to be safe. We'll probably, it'd be a really sad thing to do all that beautiful work and then destroy it because you just didn't have patience. That sounds like something I would do. Now, the way this works is the pouring cup takes the metal and we don't pour right down into it. It rolls around a bit and then it goes in gently. And he poured it beautifully because it never had enough time to suck in any air. So we want the air cut off. So that's the right size sprue. That's the part that goes down. And then it runs across this runner between here and the riser. And any of the contaminants, the dross that I didn't skim out, will float to the top and it will stick to that runner. I learned that from a foundry here in town. Then it gets to the riser and it goes down into the bottom part of the riser first. And any heavy sand or crap will stay down there in the bottom. Then it floats up and it starts going across our part over to our 3 vents. And it didn't come out the vents, which is perfect because at this temperature should just rise up them a little bit and we can actually look down in those holes and see a little bit of aluminum. The trick here is the riser. The riser is this big massive part that comes all the way up to here. And after the part is filled with aluminum, some of that air actually pushes through the sand, so it'll actually fill even that bulbous part out here in the center by just pushing air through the sand. Once that's all done, though, it's going to start cooling, and when aluminum cools, it's going to shrink 2%. And that's just a rule. All metal shrinks about 2%. But what happens, the last thing, while this is filling up and making this pool that stays in here, this riser is filling up. So the very hot metal at the last of the pour goes into this riser. I mean, it's been coming through here all this time. That's why we've had problems with it burning out the edge. It's really hot over here. That thing is cooking. It's really hot. And so it fills up with this really hot metal, and then that's the secret. Because as the part starts to cool, it shrinks and it needs more metal. And it's still fluid in the center, especially over here. It's coldest around that edge. So it starts chilling over here and drawing metal, and it sucks metal out of the riser. I've measured these, and we're only getting 1% shrinkage on the part, which means it's filling in 1% from here because we know it shrinks 2% if you just do nothing. Risers are a wonderful tool. Learned that from one of our local foundries too. Let me open this riser up for you. There we go. Well, that's perfect. And you can see it's got metal all the way up here, so it actually filled all the way to the top, but it's got a hole in it, and the sand is about 2 inches down into it, so it actually sucked that much material down and fed the part with it as the part was shrinking, and that is exactly what we want to see. So now we take a break, we'll see what's for lunch, and wait for it to cool. Now, it's always good to have a bucket of water around because you never know when you're going to light something or somebody on fire that you don't want to. And the other day I actually used this because without that metal strip that we put in there along this side, I had metal pouring out through there, and it was just a matter of splashing some water onto it. Some people freak out about putting water on hot metal. That's only a problem if you don't have a place for the steam to go, because it is going to steam. You get 1,000 times volume change from a drop of water to steam, so it's going to have a lot of pressure. But if you don't have an entrap situation, it's not an issue. You can actually pour water onto molten metal. You can pour molten metal into water. That's actually how bullets are made, or used to be.
That's not in there.
Where you go?
The whole thing got knocked over, so it's probably on the ground over here.
These are the things you want to see. You see, those are our 3 vents, and we got aluminum up all 3 of them. That's good. We have a nice surface on the part. And here's the gate over here. You can see that the top of the part is significantly higher than the gate, but that's okay because remember the air will pass through the sand. You don't want to make all of it do that, so that's why we have the vents. And so pouring cup, the sprue controls the flow, the runner helps clean up the material, the riser helps prevent shrinkage, and usually that last hot feed into the part as it cools off. But what we got here is a beautiful part. And right here you can see why we put in our little metal dike is because it's so hot here it just gets thin enough that it will come out between these parts. Normally a bigger flask, like I said, would work, but so does this little metal dike in here. Once it touches it, it bleeds off all of its heat and stops it. A little warm? Oh yeah. Let's see, where was the word step? See, there's a little bit of crap down inside of step. Not much at all. I'm not even messing with that.
Miles. There's a little bit on that E. Starts with a single step.
The middle of the E fell out, but you can still read it.
Yeah.
Fine, so I'm good with that. You see, and here's what I'm talking about. There's a little break in the sand there, so we got some extra material, but that is not a big deal to just grind out. And you can see the little flash that comes out around the parting line. Also, that's not going to be a problem to grind off. And that it looks very nice. So there you have it. That's how we cast these things. Everything you do is different, so don't be afraid to modify and change your stuff. But it's a wonderful thing to do to see a liquid go into a solid and have a part